Hello and welcome. I'm Rossi Sanchez, and this is Mindful Evenings. Mindful Evenings is, in the words of one of my followers, not just another meditation thing. It's a bit of science, emotional intelligence, and a bit of story, peppered with my unique sense of humor. Every month now, we take a light but deep dive into common behaviors and relationship issues and use the power of focus to tap into who we truly are so we can start understanding, appreciating, and loving ourselves and those around us more and creating the life we came here to live. Tonight's topic is Uncork Yourself, Rediscovering the Real You. The sequence is as follows. I'll share a couple of stories, some teachings, and then take you through a journaling exercise and a guided meditation. To start, I want to invite you to get comfortable and relax. We're going to breathe. If you're seated, place your feet on the floor, roll your shoulders back, let out your belly. Place your hands on your lap, facing to the sky, and close your eyes. And let's take 3 deep and satisfying breaths. Breathe in for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 8. One more time. And again. Okay. Let me ask you something. Who are you really? Stay with that. A few months ago, a friend sent me this message in response to Mindful Evenings. I am amazed that this wild, crazy lady I met in Santa Fe is really so level headed, serene, and soothing. I reassured her that we would always be Thelma and Louise, a nickname we earned while taking a photo workshop together in New Mexico a couple of years ago. And that no matter how mindful I become, the crazy lady will live on. In fact, she's growing stronger because of it. My friend was very relieved to hear that. I think other people may also have a hard time putting the spontaneous, adventurous, funny me in the same room with the me that hosts Mindful Evenings and comes up with some of her own guided meditations during her own daily practice. I think what happens is that many of us equate meditation with yogis and monks, who, while living a simple yet blissful existence, may not necessarily interact with others and live a regular life. So while they may dance by themselves or in a group, chances are you won't spot them at a club or on Instagram doing a body roll. But you'll see me doing it. You'll also see me laughing hysterically at myself. That comes from knowing who I am and realizing that nothing or no one should be taken too seriously. We're here to have fun, to be fun, to enjoy exploring and being ourselves. When my son was about 6 or 7, every time I told him to pick up his room, he would immediately launch into Hollywood mode and dress up in whatever garb suited the occasion. I actually thought he would be an actor because he did it so well. He'd pull out his weapons and proceed to stage a mini movie in which he starred, written by him and directed by him. I remember trying to keep a straight face, but turning around and laughing every time. I so admired that quality in him. And I wish that I could turn my chores into Comedy Central too. An hour later, I'd check in. He'd made progress with his movie. He'd come up with different characters, dressed accordingly, of course, and had a great theme going. I'd act a bit stern. Pick up your room. I'd hear in the background as I closed the door. An hour later, the room was worse than ever, with so many more characters, different wardrobes, and props crowding the set. And that started to get a little mad. Why? Because while I admired his game playing, now it felt like he wasn't respecting me as his mother or my orders to pick up his room. And on it went. Eventually, it would escalate. He'd drop the plane, pick up his stuff, and we'd all be a bit upset. Had I known then what I know now, I would have missed that opportunity to have a little fun with him. I would have stopped playing the role of parent and disciplinarian, which I was never very good at to begin with, and asked if I could have a role in his movie. I'm sure he would have found a spot for me and handed over some very innovative weapons of his own making for my protection. I would have learned about his characters, his storyline, and gotten some great fashion tips while I was at it. And maybe, just maybe, we would have gotten the room picked up in less time than it took to get upset. Several years later, he was still dressing up in character to go bike riding and to play with his friends until one day they made fun of him. And he decided he'd had enough of Hollywood. It hurt me to see him shut down that playful part of himself. Now I ask you, how many fun, loving, and playful parts of yourself have you shut down along the way? Do you even remember who you are? Not the ever changing you, but the you truly are deep down inside. As children, we're vibrant, bubbly beings, full of wonder, joy, and creative energy, the kind of energy that creates wondrous worlds where we reign supreme. The reason for that is that we're not only brand spanking new and not subject to too much conditioning or programming, but more importantly, we're very much in tune with our inner self, almost indistinguishably so, which is why we're open, trusting, loving, and in a word, bubbly, happy. So, for the first 6 or 7 years of our lives, our brains are vibrating mostly at theta waves, which is a sort of an imaginary, hypnotic, blissful state, the state where imagination becomes real. But because imagination and reality intertwine, and because children's reasoning capacity matures much later than their emotional capacity, statements such as, "Why did you get a B? You can do better than that," can be internalized as, "I'm not good enough," or "I don't want you on my team, you're too slow," can become, "There's something wrong with me, no one wants me." As we're growing up, the more we repeat these thoughts to ourselves, the more they get lodged in the pathways of our brains until they become beliefs. And beliefs are nothing more than thoughts we think all the time, but they become our gospel, our truths, and we start to identify with them. The default mode network in our brain connects our logical thinking brain to our emotional brain. When it is on, which is anytime we're not in the moment, in other words, when we're distracted, thinking about the past or the future in I, me, and my mode, I shouldn't have had that extra slice of pizza for lunch, or why isn't Jane liking my Facebook post? Mundane things like that. The default mode network lights up the stage so we can replay favorite or upsetting scenes over and over again. This default mode network mulls over our lives, the problems we face, the difficulties in our relationships, our worries, anxieties, past hurts, all driven by limiting beliefs. It ruminates about what's bothering us and allows us to beat up on ourselves quite a bit. And because what we focus on grows stronger, and because the function of our mind to create our reality based on our beliefs, voila, you are now living this movie called I'm not good enough, not worthy enough, not lovable enough, not generous enough, not kind enough. Fill in the adjective of your choice enough. Most of your waking hours, most of your life. This is why oftentimes, regardless of how much you want something, you seem to sabotage yourself time and time again. So we come into this world pure, open, accepting, blissful, but then we gather beliefs from interactions throughout our early childhood. I call that putting on layers of hand me downs. Clothing we may not even like or fit well, but we choose to wear it because someone said so or they handed it to us. And then we go from casting call to casting call, like actors, performing different roles, acting out different characters under different directors. And then at some point, we either experience a dramatic, life altering event, or if we're lucky, a light bulb goes off and we stop and look around. Is this all there is? When did I settle for a 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 job now with COVID? When did I settle for this unfulfilling relationship, this body, this house, this stressful life? And we start to question where that joyful, playful little me went. All of a sudden, we're not just settling for playing these roles, but we're wondering how we can direct our own movie. And that is the beginning of transformation. The truth is that the joyful, playful little me hasn't gone anywhere. He, she is still inside you, ready to make those dreams come true. And the dreams didn't go away either, although they may have morphed as you've done life, but they've never been anywhere else. But because we're out here, separated from our inner being, we tend to blame the family we were born into, our DNA, our education, our health, you name it, for the state we're in, the settling we've done. But nothing could be further from the truth. Again, the function of our mind is to create our reality based on our beliefs. What we believe, we see. We're constantly creating our reality, whether we know it or not. So it is our beliefs that hold us back and prevent us from reaching our dreams. Absolutely nothing outside ourselves does that. So next time you catch yourself thinking the same thoughts, repeating the same words, and reacting the same way you've been reacting for years, realize that you're in default mode and that you're the only one holding yourself back. What can you do? First of all, pat yourself in the back because you just became aware of it. You didn't just succumb to it. Yes, victory. Self awareness is a huge first step. It's actually the only step. And now that you're aware, you can choose to think, say, and react a totally different way, a way that is more aligned with who you truly are. And when you do this, you're going to feel something you probably haven't felt in a very long time. You're going to feel free because suddenly you're not a robot, a product of your programming, regurgitating your past. You're in the moment, liberated from your limiting beliefs, and you can see things much more clearly. You can see things for what they are. And that is the first step of uncorking yourself. You're tapping into your inner self so you can experience life not through a veil of limiting beliefs, but through an open window, which then allows you to make current and relevant decisions about what comes next. The world suddenly feels very differently because, simply put, the world is as you're seeing it. And when you change, it changes. And when that happens, hang on. You're in for a ride because then all kinds of wonderful things, the things that you've been wanting for a long time, that you've been dreaming about, are going to start showing up. Believe me, I know. I'm speaking from experience. So, what do you say we shed some of those limiting beliefs, eh? Take out your pen and paper because we're going to journal. On this paper, make two columns. In the first column, make a list of those beliefs you know are holding you back. Write them down and write down why you believe you can't be something or do something. Now, circle one of those limiting beliefs that you want to let go of sooner rather than later. In the second column, you're going to make a list of the things you most enjoyed doing as a child and circle your favorite one. As simple as these may have been, write them down. Playing with a stick in the mud was actually a great way to focus. Therefore, don't discard anything. These activities you love doing may still translate into one that you can do now. And if they don't, go with the original and play with a stick in the mud. It's actually a calming, meditative activity which deactivates your default mode network. If you recall, I mentioned that for the first 6 or 7 years of your life, your brain is mostly activating theta waves, which trigger imagination. Well, those brain waves are exactly the same ones that are activated during meditation, and the same ones we're going to activate now so we can tap into our infinite creative power. So get comfortable. If you're seated, place your feet on the floor, relax your shoulders, place your hands on your lap, open to the sky, and let your belly come out to play. Close your eyes and inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 6. And feel your belly rise and hold it for a count of 4. Now inhale again for a count of 2. Hold. Exhale slowly and softly through your mouth for a count of 10. And feel your belly emptying out into your rib cage. Let's do this again. Inhale deeply for a count of 6. Hold it for 4. Inhale again for 2. Hold. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 10. One more time. Now start to breathe normally again and just observe your breath. You're not trying to breathe, you're just watching the process as it happens. Notice if by observing your breath, you change it in any way. Now, think back to the journaling exercise we did and recall the one limiting belief you'd like to shed now. And imagine that you've just entered your own art gallery and you're standing in front of a very long corridor with pictures hanging along both sides of it. These pictures consist of special moments, key events and situations, time spent with people or in specific places. In other words, this corridor is your life in pictures. The pictures closest to you are those from a more recent time. It could be today, 3 weeks ago, or a year ago. It all depends on what you've deemed important enough to hang in your gallery. Now, for the next 2 minutes, keeping in mind that limiting belief, start walking slowly down the corridor, looking at all your life pictures, both on the right and on the left. You're browsing your collection, looking for a picture that reminds you of the moment you took on that belief. Take your time and go slow. Go as far back in your life as you need to. Once you find the picture, look at it closely. Can you recall the experience? Don't judge it or yourself. Just be curious about what you're seeing, as if you're on a grand journey of discovery, because you are. Now, spend some time with that memory and the feelings associated with it, and notice how those beliefs came about and why you're still holding on to them. If you find that memory, that experience, those beliefs are no longer serving you, replace the picture with something more suitable to the you really are. For the next minute, take your time creating a new picture. Once you're satisfied with that new picture, hang it on the wall. Now you're going to look for a picture of you doing that thing you enjoyed doing above anything else when you were a child. When you find the picture, stand there and observe it. Take it in fully with your five senses. See, hear, smell, taste, and touch what it felt to be there at that moment. For the next 2 minutes, be that child again. Now, walk back to the entrance of the gallery where there are several different chairs. Sit in your favorite chair, relax, and for the next 2 minutes, simply focus on your breath as it goes in and out of your body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you for joining me tonight for Uncork Yourself, Rediscovering the Real You. I hope you've enjoyed it and picked up some insights into yourself and can begin the path to rediscovering, reconnecting with the real you. I'm Rossi Sanchez, and this is Mindful Evenings. Good night.